Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Alhamdulillah. Welcome to the Mastering Tarkeeb course. Inshallah, this is an ongoing course, and inshallah, we'll be delving into the grammatical constructs in the Arabic language. So today's lesson is more got to do an introduction into Tarkeeb. What is Tarkeeb and why we are in need of the science of Tarkeeb. Inshallah, we'll cover that and an overview of what the course is going to inshallah be about. Also, if anybody wants to benefit from any other courses as well, the Arab course or the Balagha course, Arabic Rhetoric, then you can log on to www.sidrainstitute.com. So that's www.sidrainstitute.com, and you'll find various other courses as well, inshallah. So inshallah, let's get started. So what is the origin of Tarkeeb? Do we find this in any of the grammar books that speak about the importance of Tarkeeb? Yes, we do. So Tarkeeb is deep rooted in the Arabic grammar books, but I've just taken the text from one book which is studied across many madaris, and the book is known as Hidayatun Nah. Now in Hidayatun Nah we find the text النحو علم بأصول يعرف بها أحوال أواخر الكلم الثلاث من حيث الإعراب والبناء وكيفية تركيب بعضها مع بعض. So what we come to know is that النحو, grammar, syntax, is a science. علم is a science, it's a discipline بأصول, of principles, يعرف بها, by which يعرف بها أحوال أواخر الكلم الثلاث, by which the conditions of the ending of the three words are ascertained, are known, in terms of من حيث الإعراب, in terms of declinability, والبناء, and indeclinability. And then the next part, the text is وكيفية تركيب بعضها مع بعض, and the manner and the methodology of constructing some words with others. So this is the part which I've highlighted in red, which suggests that the second part of Nah is the formulation, composition of words which form and group together to become a sentence. So two parts of Nah which are mentioned in Hidayatun Nah is one which is related to Arabic diacritics, i'rab. So determining the i'rab of each and every single word. So whether it's a noun, ismun, whether it's a fi'lun, a verb, or harfun, a particle. So the circumstances surrounding every word in terms of its declinability or indeclinability, it being mu'rab or mabni, and how the i'rab is expressed of certain words, that is one aspect of grammar. And the second aspect of grammar is وَكَيْفِيَّةُ. What else does a person ascertain and learn from the principles of grammar, from the usul of grammar? كَيْفِيَّةُ تَرْكِيبِ بَعْضِهَا مَعَ بَعْضٍ. How some words are formed with others to make a phrase or a complete sentence. So we can see Tarkeeb is actually part of Arabic grammar. It's, you could say, the second half. So I don't want to go too much into why Tarkeeb is important and it's paramount in understanding Arabic texts. Will suffice with this ibara of Hidayatullah, and will suffice with that, inshallah. Now, this is an overview of, inshallah, what you will be learning in the course in due time. Now, this is like an overview of what is to come, but it's not going to be something which is going to be very basic. It will be in depth. That's why the course, it's an ongoing course on a monthly basis. So this is the fihris, the index, you could say, or table of contents, and I might even add on to it depending on the circumstances. So we can see it starts off with basic. So let's just shine the laser, inshallah, so we know where we are. So al-fihris means the index. So we're starting off with a breakdown of words. Okay, then phrases, then types of sentences. Then we're going to go into muta'alliq, the prepositional phrase, and the muta'allaq, the word the prepositional phrase is connected to. The main components of a sentence, mahkum alayhi and mahkum bihi, and then the surplus, you could say, components. And then we move on to the grammatical constructs of mubtada, khabar, fa'il, maf'ul bihi. So the mafa'il khamsa mentioned here. And we will not be covering just one form of maf'ul bihi, we'll be covering many forms. Like we mentioned in the description, for each one there's probably about 40 plus forms. So 40 different ways we can see the construction of mubtada, 40 plus different ways we see the construction of khabar, fa'il, maf'ul bihi, etc. Then we'll move on to kana and its correlated words, its sisters, meaning kana, sara, dhalla, bata, asbaha, amsa, adha, etc. Inna and its correlated words, which is inna, anna, ka'anna, lakinna, layta, la'alla, and the list goes on. Then we got the subordinates here, we got the circumstantial phrase, dhul hal and hal, which is also known as sahibul hal, and nat, the various forms. Sometimes we see that in dhul hal and hal, we see that there's a waw which comes in between, waw haliya. When do we have to bring this waw? When is the waw omitted? So there's a lot at stake, inshallah. Conditional phrases, some conditional phrases are some adawat, some articles of shart are jazima, so they actually govern and put the fail mudari in the jussive case, state of jazm. Some particles of condition on non-jussive, so they don't actually govern. Then the qasam, phrases where qasam takes place, what are the particles of qasam? And then we have jawab qasam as well, mustathna, when we're excluding. Then sometimes we have sentences where we have jawab talab, so where imperative verbs or prohibitive verbs, they have extensions. So example, somebody says ijtahid, put effort, try hard, tanjah, you'll succeed, you'll have some success. So sometimes we have an extension to certain phrases like amr, nahi, ard, etc., request. Then sentences that do have a position in terms of i'rab, and then sentences that don't have a position in terms of i'rab. Sometimes we see that an is hidden. So what are the places where the fail mudari mansoob because of an is hidden? And then an-nawadir, this is something extra I put it in, where we will come across um, certain rare and odd phrases where sometimes one can struggle to uh, understand what is the structure of the sentence. So we have like sentences like labbaik, sa'daik, and these kind of phrases. How would you grammatically deconstruct these sentences? Then obviously at the end, inshallah, Tarkeeb Surah al-Quran al-Kareem. So Tarkeeb of the certain chapters of the Quran. So this will be from Surah Al-Fatiha and then from Surah Al-Nas backwards, like we did in the Arab course. So this is an overview, but this is just the contents page, well, or the index we can say, but it will be in depth. Inshallah, it will be in depth. So that's why the course is quite long. Okay. So without any further delay, let's move on to the types of words we see in Arabic. So every time we finish a certain, you could say, topic that's from the list of the index, we'll highlight it in green. Okay, highlight in green. So that will show that we have covered that topic. So we have the types of words. Okay, the types of word. So first we have in Arabic, a sentence can comprise of a noun. Now, a noun in Arabic is known as ismun. For example, we have the word qalamun, which means a pen. Also, a sentence can consist of a verb. For example, kataba, which means wrote. And also, a sentence can be made up of a harf, a particle. So, for example, the word fi. So these are three types of words we will definitely find in any sentence in Arabic. Now, whether we have all three or whether we have two nouns, sometimes we can even have two particles. Sirtu min al-Basrati ila al-Kufa. I traveled from Basra to Kufa. There can be a combination of either one, sometimes times two, etc. But what it boils down to is we will find these three types of words in a sentence in Arabic, whether we see that there's a noun, there's a verb, or there's a particle. What's a noun? It's a name of an object, place, person. So that will include proper nouns, so Muhammad, Zaid, common nouns, pencil, window, etc. A verb is a doing word, so it denotes an action. So for example, kataba means wrote. We can give another example, jalasa, sat. And particles. What are particles? These are words that glue the sentence together. So on its own, on themselves, they only express their full meaning when they are surrounded by other words. So for example, we say min means from. You won't fully understand the meaning of from until you have a place, a starting place. So sirtu min al-Basarati. I travel from Basra ila al-Kufati. So min and ila, from and to. Yes, they do have a meaning within themselves, but they don't fully express their meaning unless they are surrounded by other words. Whereas if you look at a noun, qalamun, it means a pen, it indicates to one meaning. You're referring to a pen. When you say wrote, you're referring to the action of writing in the past tense. So ismun and fi'lun, these within themselves, okay, denote a meaning. And harf, you can conjure up a meaning, but fully understand its meaning, it needs to be um, surrounded by other words, whether it's a noun or a verb. So these are three types of words we find in a sentence. Now, مكونات الجملة. مكونات means structures of the sentence. Now, I'm going to go through a few combinations. So remember we had a noun, which is ismun, we had fi'lun, which is a verb, and we had harfun, which is a particle. Now, if we combine one with the other, we will come across 9 situations if I'm not wrong. Okay. From those 9 situations, only a certain combination of words is valid for a sentence structure. So what does this mean? Let's start. So can we have two nouns? Yes, of course we can. Anything in green denotes that the combination of these two is valid and it's a complete sentence. So we can have two nouns only in a sentence, and also that sentence will be deemed to be complete. So Allahu Razzaqun. Allah is the provider of sustenance. So Allahu is a noun. Razzaqun is also a noun that's signified by the tanween. So two nouns can make a complete sentence. Can we have one ismun and one fi'lun? Yes, we can. Allahu yarzuqu. Allah provides. Allahu is a noun. Yarzuqu is a verb. Yes, inside yarzuqu you can say there is another noun, which is the fa'il, which is huwa, which refers back to Ismul Jalala, Allah. However, just looking at the surface, we have one noun and one verb. So from one noun and one verb, we can make a complete sentence. Next, we have a combination of a noun and a particle. So, for example, we got anta, which is a noun. Min is a particle, which means from. So can that be complete in terms of becoming a sentence? No. So the combination of a noun and a particle results in an incomplete sentence. So these structures, we're just weighing up the possibilities. Two verbs, still not a complete sentence. So kana yuridu, he used to intend what? So in kana actually, you can't even say there's an ismu because it's not mentioned even before. So two verbs, just merely bringing two verbs together cannot become a complete sentence. So this combination suggests that this will be incomplete in terms of meaning. Can we have a verb and a noun? Yes. Yarzuqullahu, Allah provides. So yarzuqu is fi'lun and Allah is a noun. So combination of a verb and a noun can be complete. A verb and a particle. Dhahaba ila, went to. Who went? We don't know. Where did he go? So just a verb and a particle, incomplete. Next, two particles. Can two particles group together and become a complete sentence? No. For example, laqad. Now, lam is deemed to be a harf which normally comes on the jawab of a qasam which is hidden, mahdhuf. So when we come across this phrase in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ مُوسَى بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ, most undoubtedly Musa alayhi salam brought to you clear proofs. So when we see this sentence structure laqad, what that normally suggests is the lam is jawab of the qasam which is hidden. So in other words, Wallahi laqad ja'akum Musa bil bayyinat. Because in the jawab of qasam, a lam sometimes appears. Simple sentence, Wallahi la aqra'u. Swear by Allah, I will read. So lam is a particle which has come on the jawab of a qasam which is mahzuf, and qad is harfu tahqiq. So we got two particles. This cannot be a complete sentence. Next combination, can we have a complete sentence with the structure of a particle and a noun? So inna Allah, indeed Allah. No, incomplete. So inna is harfu tawkidin wa nasbin, or also known as harfun mushabbahun bi fi'lin. It's a particle of reinforcing, or it's a particle which resembles a verb, i.e., in other words, inna suggests the min of tayaqqun. So in meaning, it's similar to a verb. Next combination we have is a particle and a verb. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ, indeed succeeded. Who? So just a particle and a verb cannot group together and make a complete sentence. So what is the point of mentioning all this? The point is we are breaking down sentences in Arabic into three types of words. A noun, ismun, a verb, fi'lun, and a particle, harfun. Now, 3 times 3 equals 9. There are 9 possible combinations we can have in terms of combining those types of words. And from those 9 types, only 3 we can say are valid for a sentence to be deemed complete. And that is the combination of a noun and a noun, a noun and a verb, and a verb and a noun. So, Allahu Razzaqun, Allahu Yarzuqu, and Yarzuqullahu. So those 3 combinations are valid. Anything else, any combination besides these 3 will be deemed to be not invalid, but it won't be enough to be considered as a complete sentence. Now moving on, okay? Every now and then, inshallah, we will be summarizing what we have actually learnt, okay? So far we have learnt the types of words. So we have a noun, ismun, name of a person, place, or object or thing. We had a verb, fi'lun, a doing word. So qara'a, read, jalasa, sat, etc. And then we had a particle, which are words that within themselves they don't denote a complete meaning. However, they are in need. They are muhtaj of other words. So for instance, the particle ala, ain, lam, al-ya, ala, which means upon, ila means towards, min means from, fi means in. Then we came across the structures of the sentence. So sometimes we have certain combinations. So we can have 2 nouns, and we can have a noun and a verb, and we can have verb and a noun, and these are the only 3 that are valid for them to be deemed as a what? Complete sentence. Now, alhamdulillah, we can say we have covered aqsamul kalimah. Like I mentioned to you before as well, once we have covered a certain topic or something from the list from the index, we will highlight in green so we know the bigger picture. So right from the word go today, inshallah, from the onset, we know where we are heading, inshallah. And the first topic was quite basic. As we go further, it will get more in detail and in depth, and inshallah it will be of benefit. So let's move on to al-Murakkabat, phrases in Arabic. Now we have learned what sentences are made up of. They are made up of 3 types of words, ismun, fi'lun, and harfun. And then we mentioned the combination which are valid. Now we're moving on to that sometimes in sentences we have phrases. So a combination of 2 words, or possibly even more. So what are the common phrases we come across in Arabic sentence structures? So we have Murakkabun Idafiyun, al-Murakkab al-Idafi, the possessive construct, and we will give an example for each one. We have al-Murakkab al-Na'tiyu, the adjective construct. So descriptive, you could say, construct, which consists of man'ut and na'at. We have al-Murakkab al-Badali, appositional substitute construct, where we have reference to 2 things. We have we refer to two things, and the reference point for we mention two things, and the reference point for both of them is the same entity. In other words, it'll clear up inshallah when we give the examples. We have al-Murakkab al-Ishari, the demonstrative construct, so where we use ismul ishara followed by the musharun ilay, and sometimes we will see that sometimes it's a complete sentence, sometimes it's considered to be incomplete. We'll go through those examples. Next we have is al-Murakkab al-Mawsuliyu, the relative pronoun construct. So when we use words like alladhi, alladhina, man, ma, etc. Then we have al-Murakkab al-Atfiyu, the conjunctive construct, where we add things onto words mentioned before via the conjunctive particles like waw, fa, thumma, etc. Then we have the numerical construct, al-Murakkab al-Adadiyu. This is where we have a combination of two numbers to make up another number. So constructs like number 11, 12, 13, 14, etc. And then we have al-Murakkab al-Isnadiyu, the complete construct, we can say, or foundational construct. Meaning this construct is where we have combination of words and it forms the foundation and basis of a complete sentence. So inshallah we'll go through al-Murakkab al-Isnadiyu. So these are common constructs, combination of phrases we will see in sentences. And remember, more or less all of these phrases except for the last one, al-Murakkab al-Isnadiyu, are incomplete phrases. So al-Murakkab al-Idafi, al-Murakkab al-Na'ti, al-Murakkab al-Badali, al-Murakkab al-Ishari, al-Murakkab al-Mawsuli, al-Murakkab al-Atfi, and al-Murakkab al-Adadi. All these up until there, they are incomplete phrases, and the last one will be a complete phrase. So let's delve into these a bit more. So a possessive phrase. What is a possessive phrase? It is where we attribute one thing to another through the meaning of possession. And I want to make this clear. Possession is not always the key factor here. But let's give an example of possession. Okay. For example, someone says Kitabu Zaydin, Zayd's book. Now Zayd is the possessor and Kitab is the item possessed. So this is a possessive phrase. Kitabu Zaydin. Sometimes it don't involve possession. For example, we see in the first story of Qasasun Nabiyyin, قبل أيام, days before. Obviously the text carries on, قبل أيام كثيرة. So قبل is مضاف, أيام is مضاف إليه. But we don't say that قبل is possessed by أيام. So sometimes it's not even possession. Sometimes it's just relationship. For example, Abu Zaydin, Zayd's father. So Abu is mudaf, Zaydin is mudaf ilayh. So possessive phrase is normally the translation we give for murakkabun and idafiyun, but it's not limited to possession all the time. Sometimes it's just a relationship. Like we said, Zayd or Abu Zayd, or sometimes just a possessive, it just comes in a possessive form, like qabla iyamin. Okay, so let's give an example of a possessive phrase. Kitabullahi, Allah's book. Now, one thing to note here is whenever we have a possessive phrase, if you put the of translation, of, so we got kitab, book, and then we say of Allah. When we say the of translation, the sentence structure in Arabic remains the same. But when we put the apostrophe S translation, so Allah's book, we need to understand in English the word Allah comes first. So Allah's book. Allah comes first in English, however in Arabic it comes second. And the word book comes second in English, so Allah's book, but however in Arabic it will come first. If you want to make life easy and want to get this right when you are either writing possessive phrases or you are speaking, then just put that phrase into the of translation and you'll be able to maintain the same order. So book of Allah. So book has come first in English, kitab has come first in Arabic, and then Allah. And then we know that the diacritical markings, a mudhaf ilayh will be majroor, and in this instance is signified by a kasra, kitabullahi. So Allah's book. Now let's break this down in terms of tarkeeb, because what we're mostly heavily focusing on is the sentence construction. And when we construct sentences, we have to label each word in terms of its grammatical function or tag. So in this phrase, kitabullahi, kitab will be known as mudhaf. In simple language, it'll be the item possessed. So book of Allah. And the possessor will be known as mudhafun ilayh. So it's very basic stuff, but it's good to practice these terminologies. So kitab, mudhaf. The ismul jalala, instead of saying the word Allah is mudhaf ilayh, out of courtesy and respect and civility, we'll say ismul jalala is mudhaf ilayh. Now these two will pair together and become murakkabun idafiyun, a possessive construct. And what's the meaning? Allah's book. Allah's book. So this is how we will form the possessive phrase in terms of tarkeeb, sentence construction. Our next phrase was al-Murakkabun na'tiyu, the descriptive phrase. This is where we mention a quality of a noun before. So for example, somebody might say pious man, or new book, beautiful house, etc. So we have an example in front of us. رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ. Now some of these examples you'll see they actually are part of a longer verse in the Quran. So you probably can guess this one. وَقَالَ رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ. So a believing man from the family of Fir'aun said. So رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ, we're just taking this part out in terms of to explain the descriptive phrase. So rajulun means man and mu'minun means believing. So notice when we have a descriptive phrase in translation, we will mention the description first, so the na'at, which also is known as the sifa. So believing, and then we will mention the qualified noun, the man'ut, who the description is referring to, so man. So believing man. A bit like the possessive phrase, Allah's book. We mentioned the mudhaf ilayh when we use the apostrophe s. In man'ut and nat, we will translate the second word in Arabic first. So believing, and then rajulun, man. How would we do the tarkeeb of this kind of sentence structure? So we would say rajulun is man'ut, the qualified noun, the noun which has been described. And that leaves us with the word mu'minun, which is the na'at. Mu'minun is na'atun. So get used to these words, phrases, because we're bringing it down from a basic level, and then inshallah we'll be moving on to really advanced sentence constructions. And then the man'ut and the na'at will group together and will become murakkabun na'tiyun, a descriptive phrase. Up until here, we know that we're not doing complete sentence structure with these examples so far. We said the last one, murakkabun isnadiyun, the foundation construct, will be where we will do the complete sentence structure. So rajulun mu'minun means believing man. So notice here it's an incomplete phrase. So believing comes first, mu'minun in translation, and then we mention the word rajul, man. Our next phrase was the al-Murakkab al-Badali, appositional phrase, appositional substitute phrase. This is where we mention two words and the reference of both refer to the same entity. So for example, we have here al-Ka'batu al-Baytul Haram. And we know that this is part of a bigger the verse جعل الله الكعبة البيت الحرام قياما للناس. Allah has made the Kaaba, the sanctified house, a means of stability for the people. So how would we construct this kind of phrase in terms of Tarkeeb? So al-Ka'batu, whenever we are referring to two entities and the reference of both is the same. So when we say al-Kaaba and when you say the sanctified house, it's still referring to the same house, the same place, the same thing. So how would we label this in terms of its grammatical tag? Al-Ka'batu will be mubdalun min. That would be the first word that's mentioned. And the second word, which also refers back to the same word that we mentioned first, will be known as badal, which is coming after. So this is quite commonly read. People read this as mubaddalun min. It's not mubaddalun min. It's mubdalun minhu. It's from the word ibdal, not tabdil. So you want to get this right. Al-Ka'batu is mubdalun minhu. Then we have al-Bayt. Now, the second word is actually contains a descriptive phrase. So al-Bayt, we will go break this down. Sanctified house. Al-Bayt is man'ut. Al-Haram is the nat of al-Bayt. So the sanctified house. Now the man'ut and nat will group together and become the same reference as the word mentioned before, al-Ka'batu. So we will give it the tag here of badal. It's an appositional substitute. In other words, if you were to put the phrase al-Baytul Haram in place of al-Ka'batu, it refers to the same entity. And that is the case here. So this is how we would form al-Murakkab al-Badaliyu. So the first part will be known as Mubdalun Min, which is here al-Ka'batu, and the second part will be known as the Badal, but here in this case, it's actually made up of a descriptive phrase. So al-Baytu is man'ut, al-Haram is the nat, and the man'ut and nat group together and become Badal. And then we can say that this is Murakkabun Badaliyun, a positional substitute phrase. And then we have the translation, the Kaaba, sacred house. So that's most probably how you would put it into English. Our next phrase is the demonstrative phrase. This is where we use ismul ishara. So for example, here we have هذا القرآن, this Quran. So هذا will be known as ismul ishara. And the noun we are pointing at will be known as musharun ilayh. And together this will group together and become murakkabun ishariyun. And it means this Quran. And here we use the example of hada. This is used for close. Even if we were to use the word dhalika, it will still fall under a descriptive phrase, demonstrative phrase, because it's one of the asma'ul ishara. So this Quran, hada will be ismul ishara, al-Quran will be musharun ilay, and it becomes murakkabun ishariyun. Now when we check in the grammar books that can mention the i'rab of sentences and phrases, this actually in essence comes under mubdal min and badal. Because when you say hada, you're referring to the mushar ilay anyway. And when if you was to just put your hand over the word hada, you've got the word al-Quran. And if you was to put your hand over the word al-Quran and mention hada, it's still referring to what you want to refer to, meaning the Quran. So that's why in the Arab kitabs, they don't actually label it as Ismul Ishara and Al-Quran as Mushar ilayh. But for the purpose of Tarkeeb, I just mentioned it as Ismul Ishara and Mushar ilayh. Otherwise, when you look into the Arab kitabs, it will say Hada is Mubdalun Min and Al-Quran is the what? Badal. So keep that in mind. But however, it's an incomplete phrase. Now, what we want to do here now is we want to actually elaborate on one, two things here. Now, I want to draw your attention that when we use the demonstrative pronoun in Arabic, sometimes we see that along with the word after it, it sometimes forms to become an incomplete phrase, and sometimes it forms to become a complete sentence and a phrase. So when would that be? So let's look at these few examples. هذا الكتاب translates as this book. هذا الكتاب. Like I mentioned, in some Arab kitabs, they won't say اسم الإشارة المشار إليه. They will just say هذا is مبدل من and al-kitab is the badal. So they'll bring this sentence structure under the terminology mubdal min and badal. So هذا الكتاب, this book. From the translation, we know that this is an incomplete sentence. This book. Now, when we have a sentence structure like this, that after the ismul ishara, the next word has al, it'll be incomplete. So we'll just say this and then the word that's come after. So, for instance, if we say هذا القلم, that will mean this pen. It won't mean this is a pen. In terms of Tarkīb, we'll say هذا is mubdalun min, because the next word has got al, and the word after that will be the badal, and together, obviously, it'll be an incomplete phrase. Now have a look at this sentence. هذا كتاب. This is a book. So notice here, the word after هذا has no al, and we've translated as this is a book. Now, what would the sentence structure be when we use the demonstrative pronoun in this situation? That after the demonstrative pronoun, the next word does not have a al. هذا itself will take the role of mubtada'un, and the next word will be khabar. So هذا كتاب, هذا is mubtada'un, kitabun is khabar, and it will be a complete sentence and will mean this is a book. Whereas here, the next word has al. So هذا الكتاب will mean this book. Now we need more information after it for it to be complete. So هذا will be mubdal min, al-kitab would be the badal. Check this phrase out. هذا الكتاب جديد. This book is new. So notice what we mentioned at the top here, that this sentence structure still will require further words for it to be complete. So let's look at it here. So هذا الكتاب is what's at the top. This book. So هذا is mubdalun min. Al-kitab is the badal. That will group together to become mubtada'un, because the next word's got al. So it's a phrase, and that takes the role of mubtada together as a phrase. Now we need a separate information, and here we have it, jadidun, which is new, which means that this is going to be the khabar. So this book is new. So هذا الكتاب, this book. Then we have the khabar separately, jadidun, which is new. Have a look at this sentence. This is a new book. This is a new book. So هذا, because the next word don't have al, so هذا from the onset will be mubtada'un. But like here, in the previous example at the top, we just said kitabun is the khabar. This is a book. But we've got more information. So here, kitabun is man'ut, and jadidun is the na'at. The man'ut and the na'at will group together and become the khabar of هذا. And notice, look at the translation. This is, so in translation, if after the word هذا, the word does not have al, you can more or less guarantee yourself to translate as this is. Because this has got the word al after the word هذا, we didn't say this is, we just said this. Even this one as well. هذا الكتاب. We didn't say this is. So if after the word هذا, the next word is al, just translate that word with the next word without the word is. Because this does not have al, so we said this is. So if after هذا, the next word don't have al, we would translate straight away this is. When you have this is translation, that means that Ismul Ishara is forming to be the Mubtada straight away. And in this situation, Kitab will be the Man'ut, Jadid is the Nat, and that groups together to become the Khabar. And then from there you can make into a complete nominal sentence, Jumlatun Ismiyatun Khabariyatun, which we will delve into a bit later on. Look at this example. هذا الكتاب الجديد ثمين. This new book is expensive. So here we've actually added a al onto the description after the word al-kitab. So if the al carries on to the next word, it still will be incomplete. We will still need an additional word without the word al to become complete. So we can even drag this along, this phrase. So here we have done that. So this new book. So that is هذا الكتاب الجديد. So there's a bit of a mistake there. I put tanween with the word al. It's supposed to have just one dhamma. Probably we could copy and paste it from there. So هذا الكتاب الجديد. هذا will be مبدل من. We can't make it khabar straight from the onset because the next word has al. However, al-kitab, we've mentioned a description of it, which is al-jadid. So we will say al-kitab is man'ut, al-jadid is the nat. These two to group together, al-kitab al-jadid, and become the badal of hadha, because the reference point of both are the same. Now, mubdal min and badal will become mubtada'un. So this is where the mubtada ends. Hadha al-kitab, mean the construction of the mubtada as a whole. Otherwise, the mubtada is just hadha. But we're just constructing it. Thaminun will be the khabar, expensive. So can you see just before the khabar we have the word is because it's got no al. So where we have no al, that's where we're going to say is. This new book is expensive. Had we had al on the word athamin, I know it sounds crazy, but this new expensive book, I don't want it, you could say anything you want. After that, fell down or something like that. Okay, so you'll have to have additional khabar. Because why? As soon as you add al again, it will become part of the larger phrase. Check this phrase out. This book of yours is new. Kitabuka hadha. We've sandwiched the word hadha now after a possessive phrase. So when we see Ismul Ishara come in between and it's kind of joined to a phrase before, how would that play out in terms of Tarkīb? So Kitabuka means your book, but then we're saying this book of yours, and then Jadidun is new. Because if you say Hada Kitabuka, that will mean this is your book. And if we say Hada Kitabuka al-Jadid, say al-Jadidu, that'll mean this new book of yours. But we won't say this book of yours is new. So we'll have to bring the word your book first, and then the demonstrative pronoun Hada will actually play the role of nati in this situation, and it'll be interpreted as al-musharu ilay. So kitabuka al-musharu ilay jadidun, in other words. So kitab, let's break this down. Kitab is mudaf. The kaf is mudaf ilay, so your book. We have the man'ut. Now we've mentioned the demonstrative pronoun which serves as the nat. Your book, which has been indicated to al-musharu ilay. So hadha will be in the meaning of al-mushar ilay, and that will be the nat of kitabuka. Now man'ut and nat will group together and form and become mubtada'un. So that's why in English we could see this book of yours. There's no word is that is mentioned, because why? That is the part that just forms the phrase of the mubtada. Then the khabar comes jadidun, which is new. Is new. So these are different combinations of Ismul Ishara. I thought it probably would be of importance to share with you. I could have added a few more combinations like Hada Kitabuka. Hada Kitabuka would have been Hada is Mubtada'un and Kitabuka Mudhaf Mudhaf ilayh is the Khabar. Okay, but we would suffice with these constructs, and I hope this gives you a better picture of how Ismul Ishara groups together to become a phrase in certain situations groups together to become a complete sentence. Then we have the relative pronoun construct. So alladhi yuhyi. How would we form this in terms of tarkeeb? So alladhi is ismun mawsulun, is the relative pronoun. Now relative pronouns, they have clauses and they are known as jumlatus sila. It can be a jumla ismiya and it could be jumla fi'liya. But here I've just given an example of jumla fi'liya. So yuhyi, let's break this down. It's from ahya yuhyi ihyan, which means to grant life. So yuhyi would be fi'lun mudari'un, and its file would be the huwa pronoun, which refers back to alladhi. Now this sentence yuhyi will become jumlatus sila, the relative clause. So one thing we have is the relative pronoun, which is ismun mawsul, and we have the relative clause, which is known as jumlatus sila. Now these two will group together and become murakkabun mawsuliyun, a relative pronoun construct. And notice here, this is also incomplete sentence. The one who gives life. That's not a complete sentence. So relative pronoun constructs are also incomplete sentences. But this is in terms of tarkeeb, this is how we would construct them. If it was to be a jumla ismiya, then we would form that jumla ismiya, make it jumla to sila, and then combine it with the mawsul, and it will only become a part of a sentence. Juz'ul jumla. So all these phrases that we are coming across so far, they become a part, a juz of the jumla. Next, we have the conjunctive particle, conjunctive phrase. So we have ash-shamsu wal qamaru, the sun and the moon. So how would we form these in terms of tarkeeb? So the first word would be known as ma'tuf alay. Literally means something that you've added onto, which helps with the phrase alayhi. Waw would be the conjunctive particle, so it'll be harfu atf, or sometimes it says atifatun. If we say atifatun, why is that feminine atifatun? In other words, it's saying kalimatun atifatun, conjunctive word. Or you can phrase it as mudaf mudaf ilayh, harfu atfin, particle of conjunction. And then the next word, which we have joined to the first word, which is in this case joined onto a shams. What's the word that we join? What's that known as in terms of tarkeeb? It'll be known as ma'tuf. So get used to saying these words because these come up later on in the course as well. This will all group together. Ash-shamsu wal-qamar will group together and will become murakkabun atfiyun, a conjunctive phrase. And remember, it's not complete because when we just say the sun and the moon, what about the sun and the moon? So it's an incomplete phrase. Next, we have a numerical phrase or construct. For example, ahada ashara. Now, ahada ashara is actually two words. Ahadun, which was the unit, which means one, and the 10, ashar, which was with a conjunctive particle waw in between. Ahadun wa ashrun, it was 1 and 10, and then it became a numerical construct after removing the waw, and then after removing the waw, both parts became mabniyun al-fath. So how would we bring this in terms of tarkeeb? We'll just say the first part is juz'un adadiyun, it's a numerical part which is mabniyun al-fath, ahada. And that goes with the second one as well, is juz'un adadiyun, it's a numerical word which is mabniyun al-fath. So ahada ashara. From 11 till 19, both phrases, both words will be mabniyun al-fath. They will be indeclinable except for number 12, ithna ashara, because in the state of raf, the nominative case will be ithna ashara, and in the accusative and genitive case, in the state of nasb and jar, it'll be ithnay ashara. So we will say this is murakkabun adadiyun, numerical construct or phrase, and it just means 11. So we can see this is not a complete sentence. Next, we have is the foundational phrase. This is where we have the complete sentence. So we have two words coming together and it forms to be a complete sentence. So we got the word Allah and we got the word Ahad. So the word Allah, Ismul Jalala, is Musnad ilay, and also we will say it's what? Mubtada as well, because the noun coming at the beginning of the sentence is Mubtada, and that will leave Ahad to become Musnad. Okay, so in terms of Isnad, attribution of one word to another, how would we label these words? I know we're used to Mubtada and Khabar, that's going to come later on, but because we're just mentioning phrases, it's probably best to give you the name Musnad and Musnad Ilay here. So what is Musnad and what's Musnad Ilay? Just simply think what we are attributing, which is one, is known as Musnad, and what we're attributing to Ilayhi, towards or to, is known as Musnad Ilay. So we're attributing the quality of one to the word Allah. So Allah will be Ismul Jalala will be known as Musnad Ilay, and the thing we're attributing will be known as Musnad. In this case, Ahad. So the Musnad ilay and Musnad will group together to become Murakkabun Isnadiyun, foundational phrase, and because it's a complete sentence, it means Allah is one. Bit of mistake in the translation, the apostrophe should not be there. Okay, so Allah is one. Because we have Jumla Ismiya and Jumla Fi'liya, so there's two possibilities when it comes to Murakkabun Isnadiyun. We can have the verb first, as is the case here, or we can have the noun, which was the case in the previous slide. When we use the verb, then that will mean that what we're attributing has come first, guiding, giving guidance. So that will be known as Musnad. And whom we are attributing to will come after, which is in the form of a fa'il. That will be, in this case, the word Allah, and that will be Musnad ilay. Now these two phrases, Yahdi and Allah, so these two words become a phrase and a complete phrase, which means that it becomes Murakkabun Isnadiyun, and it means Allah guides. So this kind of construct will be a complete sentence. Now let's just summarize what we have learned in terms of the Murakkabat. So we have Murakkabun Idafiyun, possessive phrase, incomplete, for example, Qalamu Zaydin or Rasulullahi, etc. We had a descriptive phrase, for example, Rajulun Salihun or Rajulun Mu'minun, believing man, righteous man. Okay, still incomplete. We had Murakkabun Badaliyun, where we have two words, the reference points of both are the same. For instance, somebody wants to say Al-Ustadhu Muhammad, the Ustaz Muhammad, reference is the same, it's incomplete. You still need words to complete that phrase and that sentence. Next, we had Murakkabun Ishariyun, the demonstrative pronoun phrase, where we use the word Hada, Dhalika, Ulaika, whichever one, and the next word has al. If the next word has al, then it'll be incomplete. However, if the next word don't have al, like Hada Kitabun, this is a book, it'll be complete. So that will actually fall under Murakkabun Isnadiyun. And we mentioned all those different scenarios. Then we had Murakkabun Mawsuliyun, the demonstrative, the relative pronoun, the relative construct, okay, where we use words like alladhi, alladina, ma, man, etc. This, along with the relative clause, will be incomplete. Like we get the example, alladhi yuhyi. Then we had murakkabun atfiyun, where we're joining one word to another via the conjunctive particle. This will also be incomplete. So Zaydun wa Amrun, ash-shamsu wal qamaru, etc. Then we had Murakkabun Adadiyun, the numerical phrase. This is where we bring two words together and it becomes a number. And in the example of the unit, Ahadun and Ashrun, 10, combined together and it became 11, Ahad Ashara, after the removal of the waw. So that will also be incomplete. Then we had Murakkabun Isnadiyun, the foundational construct. Okay, this is where it's complete. So Allahu Ahadun. So Allah, Ismul Jalala, will be the Musnad ilay, and Ahadun would be the Musnad. In terms of obviously Tarkīb in terms of Mubtada, and khabar, ismul jalala will be mubtada, and ahadun will be the khabar. But because we're just referring to as Murakkabat, at this stage we'll label it as musnad ilay and musnad. And then we had the jumla faili example, yahdillahu, yahdi would be the musnad, and ismul jalala will be the musnad ilay. Together it becomes murakkabun isnadiyun, and that is the one that is a complete phrase. So in the grand scheme of things, we have, alhamdulillah, in our first lesson, we have covered the importance of Tarkīb, the foundation of Tarkīb, the origin, where would we get this? Is this something, it's a new concept or not? What is it? No, it's deep rooted in the grammar books. And we've covered the types of word, and we've covered the different types of constructs, and where the constructs are deemed to be complete. Next, inshallah, next lesson, we'll be covering the types of sentences. This is a free trial lesson. If anybody is interested in the course is still open for registration. It's never late, and this course will be ongoing. If anybody is interested, there will be a description put into the a link put into the description. And also, to view other courses, you can even visit www.sidrainstitute.com. And there are other courses available ranging from the Arabic rhetoric course, Balagha, Arab course, searching for words in the Handsware Dictionary, Quran intensive course, where we've covered the intense study of Surah Al-Fatiha, so you can have a look at that as well. There's also, if anybody is interested in purchasing Qasasun Nabiyyin Part 1 with full vocabulary and grammatical analysis with rhetorical points added, it's a special edition. You can also check that on the website